Hello friends, how are you today? I hope that you're well and having an amazing day. There's some cool stuff on the chart here today and I wanted to show it to you. It's funny because I know it looks like there's not much happening, but if we look at here, I'll show you the key action areas. First there's this figure here, okay? And then interestingly, this comes into play. Once I started analyzing what this figure was doing, this area of the chart made more sense. And I just also point out that right here at 20 hertz, we're in the beta brainwave range. And it looks like people are really, really paying attention. Okay, because that is just like lit up in a solid line. And you still have here, right here is about at the gamma wave range, which is 38 to 42 hertz. So it might be a little on the edge of high beta, but definitely into the gamma range. And this is the lighting up of, in human brainwaves, of our connection with God, our spiritual connection, and how we perceive that from our, brain, active brain perceptions. And you see that lit up again here, where there was this is actually part of a crest or a wave. The one other interesting thing is there's no data on the chart here for the last few hours, and as I'm making this video, it's still no data. Well, the first thing that came to me when I saw this was revealing the darkness in hearts and minds. What I wanted to show you is this. I've talked about how the Schumann resonance happens to be in the same hertz range as human brain waves. There's another aspect, and it's been a while since I've talked about this aspect of the chart. About a year ago, I talked about it quite a bit because it was very active at that time. Okay, so how I read energy is that from a higher perspective, there can be different levels of meaning. So besides looking at this as brainwaves, I also look at, as I've said, the images in the chart. In my beginner playlist, I have a video that explains, why I think those are important and how that works in my view. One of the things that you see a lot is you'll see images almost like people, and the head, the heart, and then sort of the legs extending. This will be like the lower chakra area. That's what I noticed here today, is that first of all, you have a lot of red in the chart, and it seems to be at the head and at the heart. If you're aware of what chakras are, they're an energy system in the body. And so here's the heart, here's the head, and there's a chakra here at the throat. There's a chakra at the top of the head. Then there's a chakra here between the heart, around where the solar plexus is. Then you have your second chakra in the feminine creative area, and your first chakra in the male sexual creative area. This is where our creative energy is. Okay. So what's interesting is that in the head area of this, I see this as a figure. And of the figure, you've got all of this red. The first interesting thing that I noted about the red was it's like there's a lot of the shadow aspect of the personality going on. There's issues that people are wrestling with. There's past traumas that people are wrestling with. But the interesting thing that I saw here was how much bright red there is. Like here, look at this, here. And I've talked about how we can transmute the shadow side of our personality, that we bring it back into alignment, if we choose, with divine will for us as we see that. We bring it back into alignment with God's path for us, or our soul path. There's a video, about 2 or 3 videos below, where I explained in detail about that. And actually, that was I thought that was a pretty good talk. So if you're interested, it's linked down below. It's interesting here because the elections are still ongoing. Actually, the day that this was formed, I think maybe it was the evening of January 6th, the big election for the Senate, which will determine who controls the Senate, Republicans or Democrats, occurred just before this. And what's interesting here is there's a sideways F in the chart, and there's been an F pattern in the election charts that I won't explain why. You'll have to look that up. I just thought it was interesting how there's a sideways F sitting in the brain here of the human being. So those results seem to be being focused on by a whole lot of us, since it's in the Schumann here. Now, here's where the throat chakra is. And what was interesting here is look at the dark lines. Immediately when I saw this, especially this really more solid dark line here, this one's, kind of a sickly looking green. What this reminded me of is, okay, so this is the throat area here. In doing energy work, what I have seen in the past is energetic blocks at the throat. And in fact, I've had those myself. One time I cleared a huge black, it was almost like a patch of energy right in front of my throat chakra. Gosh, I got to tell you, it took me years. It took me years to be able to go on YouTube and talk on a video. It was a lot for me to even think about doing that. Even the thought of it would just bring me to tears because of how much I wanted to share my spiritual perceptions and energy perceptions, but how much fear there was in doing that. And that's exactly what this part of the chart reminded me of today, okay? And the blackness that I had to clear out of my throat, and even like in energy, literally like a patch of energy, square or rectangular patches of energy. So let's go over here to the heart area. This is where the heart chakra, and the one other thing here besides all the dark energy is the incredible brightness. So what this, tells me is that we're really processing it. Like we're processing it in the body, we're processing it in our brain waves, okay? Because this isn't about the alpha range of brain waves right here. But we're also transmuting it, and that's why I'm seeing this more as representative of, rather than a dark forces character with the head, the body, and then the legs here, I see this as human beings who have been through something or who are having something held over them around speaking, and these are regular people. And there may have been trauma, etc., but this represents regular people who are moving through the shadow side of their nature and essentially deciding what to do. So this to me shows as a choice point, and I'm going to explain to you why. Now, this is what I wanted to show you. This was really interesting here. This is the amplitude. Now, there was a spike in all the amplitudes, and normally, you'd say, hey, is there a wave of white resonance? Well, there wasn't. There was a wave of the red. Now, what was interesting is there was a cresting through the resonances. First, you had a spike in the amplitudes in the green, then came the red, then came the yellow, then came the white resonance. Isn't that fascinating? It was literally like wave, 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 wave. I haven't seen that marked so clearly before, and so I really wanted to point that out, and that's why I added this white line that you can move here. So here you can see there's the green, there's the middle of the red, okay? You can see the yellow comes just a bit after, right there, and then right after that, the white in two peaks. So there was a cresting here. You had spikes here in the yellow, okay? And this spike in the yellow came just before, and you have a spike in the red, okay? And these came, there's an interesting feature I'm going to show you, okay? But the quality spikes where the yellow is stronger in its true nature and the red is stronger in its true nature, so to speak. The last couple of videos I talked about how this was basically representing the heartbeat of humanity, this green quality. The wave spike occurred at 13. And so you've got right here at 12, you get a spike in the green quality, and then we're back down for some period of time because there's no data here. All of that came together to spike the red. And I think with the higher strength in the white, it really helped with the transmutation of the red, bringing the red to a brighter color. In the lower hertz here, okay, so this is representing sort of the subconscious. It's interesting because you have this matrix lit up, but it's lit up a lot in white, okay? So, and the other interesting thing about it was look at all the purple hanging over the figure. Purple is a very spiritual color. White is also, we've talked about how the white resonance shows the divine influence, expanded consciousness. The fascinating thing here was how much purple there was. So it's like in the subconscious of these people, those of us who are going through this right now, God is resident, like in the subconscious at the moment. And even in sort of the strict lines of thinking, okay, the analytical brains, those types of thinking in the subconscious seem to be lit up. It seems like, look at this purple here. amazing, this brilliant jewel color of purple appears. And look what happens in the chart. Clear all the way through to the deeply unconscious areas of the hertz, deeply unconscious in human brainwaves. And then look, the whole figure stops. Look, the red stops all the way to the bottom. And there we go. We still have the image of where those purple squares were. Those are still lit up down here. And then deep into the bedrock, what I call the bedrock of the chart, which kind of occurs in a pulse in the background, anchored into the bedrock. So look, here's the deal. Any people right now who are facing a tough decision about speaking out, God's got your back. The divine is present in what is happening. Now, let me show you this image here, and then we'll end. In this image, you see the dark line here. This is all from where the head chakra is in the other image to almost to the high heart. It's filled with this darkness. However, look at the brilliant purple all around this area. It's like the divine has been working on this problem in all people, in all of us. The divine has been, look at how the green lightens here. The divine has been working on assisting us in not just taking a stand, but having the moral courage to speak our truth, having the courage that comes from the heart. We saw the heart energy in the heart, the darkness, the shadow aspect of a personality, the dark forces in our society. Their efforts are being transmuted. And within the human being, you see the lightening of the red representing the shadow to brightness in some areas. This is in the throat chakra and in the connection between heart and mind. There's been a real darkness there, and that darkness has prevented people from speaking their truth, or even perhaps they needed to speak to act. But you see here how the brilliant royal purple lights this area up, like from God, and here's FFF. Okay, it just lights that area up. And now look what happens when we get to the figure. And that is where I showed the peak in the red and yellow. Okay, it was fighting back, but look what happened. The purple influence helped to reduce this. So even though there appears to be a dark energy in front of the throat chakra of many, there are spaces here to speak, okay, and speak with authority. And the line has been broken. That went all the way up to the head, and that went all the way down to the heart. So this spirit has been working with us and on us. So what happens here? Here's the choice that I see. The choice of the individual or individuals here is this, that you take a leap of faith. Okay, and that's this here. Okay, when you feel, for whatever reason, in the real world that you are restricted from speaking, maybe because a person's been threatened, maybe because they feel some aspect of their livelihood or their job is at stake, or it's their public perception that they're concerned about, trauma from the past, or just fear, whatever it happens to be, that's what's acting here. But the divine has worked on us and given the courage, okay, broken that great dark force that was trying to block communication, trying to block our speech. And look what happens. If we can speak anyway, we take a leap of faith.